Welcome. If you're here to learn more about how Open Farm uses retail advocates to drive sales, you've come to the right place. Quick little housekeeping note before we get started today. We are recording this session and it'll be available to you afterwards today. We will keep all of our participants on mute today, but please don't let that discourage you from asking questions. Please just use the chat function. You're welcome to post them to everyone, or you can message them to myself directly. I'm Becky Little, or to Inga Johnson, and we'll be watching and making sure we get to those, whether it's in real time or making sure that we save time at the end for Q&A. No question too big or too small. We learn from everybody every time we do one of these. And we anticipate the presentations will last about 30 minutes today, which should save us some time for some good discussion. With that, we'll do some introductions. As I said, my name is Becky Little, and I'm going to be your host today. I work with product marketing and customer experience here at ExpertVoice. And that's really just code for saying that I have the honor of working with many of our clients to better understand their needs and what ExpertVoice can do to better solve some of their most pressing challenges.
Amy is going to be speaking from Open Farm, and we're so excited to have her. So as Becky was alluding to, we have a really experienced guest in the pet industry and chatting about what her experience has been working with ExpertVoice. And myself, my name is Inga Johnson. I head up marketing here at ExpertVoice. And for the introduction, I'm going to spend about 5 minutes just giving a tiny bit of background about ExpertVoice, what it is we do, what are the problems we're passionate about solving, just about context. But the bulk of today will really be listening to Amy chat about her experience and what she's found in working with ExpertVoice. So at ExpertVoice, there is a key problem that we think about every single day, which is how do you help consumers have a great buying experience? And for us, one of the things that feels really important for brands to be able to tap into is we all know there are certain people whose opinions and recommendations matter more than others. So if you work in the industry, if you work in retail, or if you're just super passionate and almost nerdy about a topic because you love it so much, when you make a recommendation to a consumer, it has a ton of weight. And so we've set out trying to build a network of these type of individuals and connect brands to them, so the brands have a chance to win them over and get that credible and authentic recommendation that really does impact the consumer buying journey. This idea of having other people promote your brand, we call it advocacy. And you'll hear us use that term throughout anything that we put in front of people, because we're very passionate about advocacy and building advocacy in scale in the way that it is equivalent to any other type of marketing program that you have out there. One particular area of advocacy that's really impactful for brands is retail. So it's still a critical channel for so many brands. And the reality is consumers still expect the retail buying experience to give them a guided journey. So 73% of shoppers still say that product knowledge is what they need most from a sales associate. And McKinsey's done a lot of research on the impact on the consumer buying journey and how it's changed over the years. And what they found is despite people having more resources to do research prior to entering the store, up to 40% still change their mind at the very last minute based on something they see or interact with right at the point of purchase. So this last mile obviously is super critical for brands to win. It's really impactful for the bottom line. And this is an area that we find brands share our compassion and focus on, but there's been historically a lack of tools. And not just a tool to manage retail training, like just to get someone educated, but what's the next generation? Like, how do you build advocacy in this channel so someone is promoting your brand both in store and out of the store? So a number of the brands that we work with are investing heavily in this channel. They believe in the impact it has and really come to us looking to have that next generation of tools. So maybe it's a spreadsheet, maybe it's a little limited on the learning management system. They know it's impactful, but they aren't always given the abilities to scale it or demonstrate the visibility in a way that gets them the type of resources they need to invest further in the channel. And that's why we think about it in terms of building a community. Profiles of individuals you can see there on the left get down to the individual level, that we partner deeply with brands to build this community. And for most brands, this is the first time they've had assistance and not going it alone with trying to reach and grow this audience. And then really creating insights in terms of who are the type of individuals in this community that you can target, who's already engaged with a brand, down to the store level, the region level. Then how do you map that all back to sell through so you can really optimize the program and show its impact. The other thing we hear a lot from brands is that it's really hard to take the insights they're getting from the in-store reps and pivot and make it actionable quickly. So we all know today in particular, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get your reps in store. But even before COVID, if you were able to get those wonderful nuggets in terms of insight of how the product launch is going and how it's selling, to make a pivot and have impact and get a change of information in front of these individuals was difficult and difficult to do in scale. So we've really been focusing on the example on the right there. How do you in a digital format create really engaging brand content, something that is not just strengthening your brand's interaction with these individuals, but leading to a quality recommendation through animations and videos, and the ability to do that as often as needed to react to changing market conditions and what you're learning. And then how do you get the insights that was often verbally given from the reps and make it tangible in a way that you can share across the organization? On the left there, you can see an actual review from individuals that were giving their in-depth feedback on a product that you can use to bring back to internal teams. Or you can even place this recommendation directly into your e-commerce experience to impact conversion there as well. So advocacy is something that we're very focused on. We've built a framework, we've built a science, and more importantly, we've built the technology in order to help you build a community of individuals that could impact consumer buying decisions, really strengthen their recommendation through education and product seeding and surveys, and then ways to really amplify their reach. So for us, advocacy, we believe, should have a real impact on your bottom line. So we've focused on advocacy where it happens in the consumer journey so that you can see that impact. Taking these recommendations and reviews and putting them on your e-commerce channels so you can have an impact directly on conversion. Being able to target people who are professionals in the field and increase your brand awareness to consumers that are actively asking questions about what they should feed their pet or what type of training they should do. And of course, what we're going to talk about today, that final mile, like how do you get an advocate right where the consumer is making that final buying journey.
So Amy, we're going to turn the time over to focus you on the Open Farm story because that's why people have joined us today. But we do have some people on the call who maybe are not pet industry experts. And so I'd love it if you could just take a minute and tell us a little bit about Open Farm, a little bit about your history and your brand to set the stage for our discussion today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me for sure. I do see a lot of names that I know. So to all of you that I might have worked with before or know from the industry, thanks for hopping on. And I'm happy to answer any questions after this. My number hasn't changed. So holler out if you would like. Great to see your names. And then I'll try to be conscientious of those of you not in pet and not go too far down using pet words and our retail space jargon. But yeah, so Open Farm. So Open Farm is we're in the CPG space. Obviously, we are a dog and cat food manufacturer in the pet specialty realm. We also have a direct-to-consumer business. We do sell direct on our own website. So those are our two main channels. And we have a wide variety of formats within dog and cat food. So we make dry food, wet food, frozen food, supplements, treats. So a lot of different parts of our product line to know about individually, and then as well as obviously our brand story. So I won't go into the details of our brand. It's a great brand. We were built on the ideas of sustainability, traceability, and ethical sourcing. So we have a really fun, unique story to tell in the space. And what I think we're going to talk about today is why we chose ExpertVoice as one of those tools. I think that, but there's probably some people in the pet space on here going, why the heck is she on here telling us what they're doing? I'm not going to give you all of our tips and tricks exactly that we've figured out over these last 6 months, but I will say that, you know, Open Farm being a big brand or a small brand in a big space in pet specialty, is really important that pet specialty wins. And that was before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, in support of small business. And really, we want other brands to win as well, because when we're all winning, that means our business owners and retailers are winning, and in turn, our consumers are winning and choosing our foods over those maybe found in some bigger format stores. So I'm going to give as much information as I can, and hopefully it's helpful. And if anyone wants to reach out directly, I'm more than happy to try to help you through your process. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Amy. Careful what you offer. You never know.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So as Amy referenced, they are a relatively new partner to ExpertVoice. You guys just launched, I think, in early April.
Yeah.
Right as the whole retail world was reeling from what are we going to do with this crazy situation we find ourselves in. But the decision to partner with ExpertVoice obviously happened long before your program actually went live. So can you tell us like why you did choose ExpertVoice as a partner and how it's helping you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I'll talk in two parts here. One, we'll call it pre-COVID, and one, it's not really post-COVID. It's the new world we live in. But as Becky was saying, we obviously had made a decision to go with ExpertVoice long before our launch in April. It does take some time to get all of your ducks in a row and what you want to present, you know, ready to go. But essentially, we see a need for added is not the right word, continued advocacy and education on our brand in the pet specialty space. And while we have a great team of sales reps across North America, they can only do so much. And with the pickup in, you know, use of mobile devices and computers to learn things and do things in store, we thought that ExpertVoice would be a great addition as an incremental opportunity to get our training materials across to advocates of our brand or potential advocates of our brand and retail employees. So it was a tool that I was familiar with prior to coming to Open Farm. I've been in the industry 18 years and worked with another very large brand and was familiar with them through that. So kind of knew how it worked already and was able to kind of sell it internally as a great option for us. You know, the path to adoption is pretty easy with ExpertVoice from the advocate standpoint. It's easy to use on mobile. A lot of employees in pet specialty already know about it because there are other brands using the platform. So if an employee is already what we call affiliated as an expert, meaning they work in a pet store or have some kind of affiliation with pet, then it's as easy as just adding Open Farm as another option for them to review our materials and perhaps make commentary. So it is pretty well known. Post-COVID, obviously our timing was, timing of COVID is not good. I don't mean to imply that, but the timing of our launch in April worked out very well because, as many of you know, retail stores made quick changes to not allow vendors in or limited vendor interaction, even as we kind of come out of COVID in some areas. So having this tool available to be able to call up stores and say, hey, I still have materials for you to review and learn about my product during this time was really, it was really a great thing to have during that. Again, we were already planning on it. It was going to be a tactic we used, but just the timing worked out so that we had what we needed when we needed it, come to find out. So
timing is obviously everything for people, and it's really nice when that works out in your favor unplanned.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't because of a global pandemic, but you know, it is what it is. Oh
That's
God,
good.
that was terrible. I shouldn't have said that.
So you mentioned a little bit about talking about what your program, like having built it on ExpertVoice, but some may not have the context of what that means. Like, what does a program look like?
Yep.
Can you share with the group a little bit about how you've structured your program? What are you doing to engage your experts?
Yeah, so it would probably take, well, not probably, it would take a lot longer than 30 minutes to go through all of the tools that ExpertVoice could have available to you, but essentially you can develop lessons in a variety of ways. They can be static, they can be videos, they can just be product information. We call those modules, but yeah, so you load up your lessons and you put them out into the universe for these advocates and experts, if you will, to view and use, hopefully learn a little bit about your brand or a specific product. So, you know, some companies use it as a brand platform, just learn about Open Farm. You can use it for product specific things like product launches or areas of your line that, you know, you want to give focus to. It keeps the experts engaged. You can do them over and over again, or you can load different ones depending on what kind of agreement you have with ExpertVoice and what your end goals are. But, you know, taking away, there's also so much data you get from it, which I know there's another slide on that, so we'll get to that. But once an expert engages with your brand, there is a ton of information that you can then get about that expert, where they are, who they are, what they're recommending. So it's really like an endless array of opportunities. And I will say, I'll give the ExpertVoice team, Trevor and his team, some credit. They're great at working with a brand to really tailor a program to what your specific needs are. Whether that's you really are video content focused, or maybe you are doing a specific tactic that you're not sure how to go about doing it. They'll give you the information. Hey, we've done this with another brand in another space for what you're trying to do, and here's what works well. So I would say that we work really closely with our development team at ExpertVoice to tailor our program, and that's one of the things that we like about ExpertVoice.
Well, as the girl thinking about customer experience, that's obviously music to my ears. So thanks, Amy. I'm glad that's working. I know that education is a huge part of your program and obviously a core fundamental of what we believe in to help strengthen recommendations. But also one of the opportunities is for brands to seed their products to people, whether that's gratis or at a discount or whatever offer is appropriate. In the pet space, I know that can be challenging because shipping pet food is expensive. And many of our pet partners have explored rewarding their experts with other perks like a gift card or logoed items. And I know that you guys have been really thoughtful about how you approach your program to also support your retailers, even though you do sell direct to consumer on your site, which could be an avenue to direct your experts towards. Could you share a little bit about your philosophy there?
Yeah, sure. So ExpertVoice will give your brand the opportunity, if you want to sell direct to your experts, that definitely is an option. So an easy solve for us would have been, okay, go on to your lessons, take your lesson, get a reward. And if that reward happened to be a free bag of pet food, we could very easily ship it to them from our direct to consumer website or offer it for purchase. We decided not to do that because we are a supporter of independent pet specialty and really want to drive those sales back through that channel. So, you know, again, ExpertVoice, very flexible to work with you to do what you need to do. We have done gratis product and we've also done coupons. You can do a wide variety of things, again, dependent upon what your end goal is for whatever tactic you're, you know, launching or have in market. But you can do things like, if you're launching a new product, offer one of those products for free at the store, or a coupon or a voucher where they can redeem it at the store, sending that sale through that channel. You can offer gift cards, you can send swag. So it really kind of depends on what your initiative is. But we've done a multitude of things. You know, you could also use this as your employee feeding program. If you wanted to do a new lesson every month, and every time they take a lesson, they get a voucher for, you know, a product or a discount. That's pretty easy to do. So we tried a variety of things and many of them work. So it's really just up to each individual company. I think and again, if you have a business that has a direct to consumer website, you can drive people to that if that is your an option you wanted to do as well. Sometimes I know outside of pet that's used a little bit more regularly. Maybe it's a product that, you know, is not easily found at retail like ours is. So I think the important thing for us is, how do we drive brand awareness, education, advocacy, and then traffic back through the independent pet specialty store? So following that kind of chain of thought is why we came to our decisions. And everyone on the call, again, should just know that ExpertVoice is very easy to work with and coming up with a solution for whatever it is your product or project is. So.
Thanks, Amy. Something that you mentioned when we were chatting before that I thought was a really interesting approach. Obviously, your product is carried at pet specialty, and your incentive is a pretty generous coupon, but you've been very generous in who you choose to engage. You have experts engaging that are actually experts at employees of the stores that carry your products, but you also engage people beyond that, correct?
Yeah, yes, correct. So you can, as a brand, set up your parameters for who you want your experts to be in any way that you want. So for us, obviously someone working at a pet store that carries our brand of food, super important to potentially get onto the program if they're not already an ExpertVoice expert for another brand, and learn about Open Farm and potentially take advantage of the rewards. Beyond that, I'm sure a lot of you on the call in pet specialty have a lot of stores that don't carry your products either. So we had made the decision to open up our expert portfolio to anybody working in pet, because our viewpoint really is, if you're working in pet, you're probably a pet lover, you probably talk about pets, you probably talk about pet food. And if you were to find out about a brand and loved it and recommended it, you know, that person may not buy it at your store because you don't carry it, but they're still buying the brand out there in the pet specialty market. And then potentially also you as an expert recommending that food or product back up to your buying channel is something that you really love, and potential to get placement on your food. So for us, a pet expert is anyone in the pet specialty channel. You can also go beyond whatever your retail channel is. So hobbyists and enthusiasts maybe, you know, would be important to you depending on what you sold. In the pet space, it could be breeders, it could be, you know, rescue groups. I mean, you can really put whatever parameters you want on it, and ExpertVoice will help you set up a program to be able to vet those experts and either sign them up or deny them based on whatever parameters you put in place. So lots of opportunity.
Thanks, Amy. Now, you teased the slide a few minutes ago as we were talking about data, and that you have the ability to track adoption. Just to level set for people on the call, clients have access to something we call the advocacy platform, which is our client interface for a brand to access a variety of apps that help them see analytics. They get to see photos that have been tagged with their brand, any reviews that experts have typed up and entered in the system about their brand. And Amy, you've been up and running, I said, since April. And so now you have a few months of data insights and working with the platform and seeing what's happening. What are you guys learning, and how are you seeing experts respond and engage?
Yeah, so there's a lot of data available. It can be a bit overwhelming just because there is so much. ExpertVoice uses a platform that we also use called Tableau, so it was very easy for us to kind of shift through the information. But essentially, when you have a program where you have all of these experts now using your lessons or modules, you can find out pretty much anything you want. You know, who are they? Where are they at? What lessons are they taking? Are they taking your gratis item? Are they downloading your coupon? If you do have a direct site, we're not using this, but if you did, you obviously would be able to then know who on ExpertVoice went through your channel to make a purchase. We've got to do a little bit more legwork on that, but it's still data points that we can get with some help from our distributors. But again, it's the tailoring of the data and the program. I mean, you can really find out anything you want. And then what you can do is then use that information to shape, you know, future decisions in so many ways. I mean, if you're actually selling product, you would obviously be able to see, you know, what products are selling to experts. So this is not just a random person. This is an expert in whatever it is you are selling. And so that information becomes almost more valuable because you're seeing what they really have an affinity and a passion for. You can also use it to, you know, make decisions on sometimes if you offer a free product or a choice of a free product, which product are they choosing and why, in addition to reviews. So anytime someone gets a product through the ExpertVoice platform, whether it's a free product or an opportunity to purchase a product, they are reminded or asked to leave a review. So you get these great reviews from experts that you can then use, one, for data. What are they saying about your product, good or bad? And then two, you can use those reviews on your own web platforms, whether that's direct to consumer or other things. So There's just really a plethora of information, and I know that we are also using it in store in certain ways, because you can tell also who took your lessons, you know their name, you know what store they work at, in our case, if you're using it in pet specialty. So it's a great lead in to have a conversation with an employee one-on-one after they've already engaged with your brand. So you're no longer making a cold call, you're making a warm call to someone who in theory knows something about your brand, or at least has shown interest in finding out more.
Super. And I'm being conscious of time. We are coming up on our last slide. So if you have any burning questions, please go ahead, throw them in the chat. We'll get right to them in the next couple of minutes. But just as kind of a final wrap up from Amy before we answer any Q&A, everybody does want to know how brands are navigating COVID-19
Sure.
and how you're responding and planning for the future. So I realize you've got a whole bunch of competitors on the phone, but as much as you are willing to share
I don't think, for anyone in the pet space, I don't think I'd say anything that probably they haven't had conversations about, around a table with their own groups, which is, it's a bunch of unknown. We can only do what we think is helping. ExpertVoice is one of many, many tools that I'm sure people are using. But, we do think that we're just going to have to find more and more ways to communicate with employees, experts, consumers outside of traditional channels. And I think that ExpertVoice is a non-traditional channel. It's, something new and exciting. But yeah, and it's, stores continue. Some stores want to see people, some don't. And I think that's going to continue for some time. So it's how do we get the information out to the people who are recommending our product, and how do we get the information out to the end consumer, have become our two kind of main mantras. And again, this is just one tool to help. And I'm sure there's many more others are using, but, that's just one thing we're doing.
Thanks, Amy. And thank you for being such a passionate fan and supporter. We appreciate it. It looks like we just have one question right now, and that's, I think this is probably more targeted to you, Amy, so pay attention.
Okay.
Does it work better for the larger chains or the smaller stores as well? And do you know what your ratio is of chains to smaller stores?
Yeah, sure. It actually, we have found, has good adoption in both large and small chains. I will preface this by saying we're in pet specialty. We're not in the two big ones, which would be Petco and PetSmart. We are in Pet Supplies Plus. And then obviously a variety of smaller, regional chains and 1-2 store retail locations. We have found that in pet specialty specifically, there is a wide the knowledge that ExpertVoice exists is pretty high, even in smaller chains. So the adoption has been really good. We skew more towards larger chains only because there's more of them. So if you're just looking at total number of people signed up as an open farm expert, it does skew heavily there. But again, they have a lot more stores. So on a per store basis, it's actually pretty average, anywhere from 2 to 3 experts per store. But yeah, I would say it works well in both.
And something that Amy and I looked at when we were just looking at what our engagement what was happening was we were really surprised to see, or I was surprised, maybe she wasn't, because anytime you have a new brand launch, you don't know if it's one and done. People come in and engage, like learn, got it, moving on. And that already she's seeing a third to a half her audience come back month after month to re-engage, to either both, you can see if they've learned something new and they're redeeming another incentives.
Yep.
All right, we have, do employees access the modules through an app or a company website?
Yep, I see Chris DeMello, one of my favorite people. Hi, Chris. Yeah, so they actually access it through an app. So there's no setup for individual retail store locations at all. Everything is set up by ExpertVoice. The expert downloads an app. They sign on as an affiliate with that particular store, and they are off and running. So very easy to adopt by an individual person. There's no work necessary from the retailer at all. And you will find, and I'll speak to pet specialty specifically, that you have many, many retailers who are completely fine with their employees, using it and getting whatever the rewards are, including the big retailer I mentioned. So,
yeah, and then to to be clear, ExpertVoice is available on the web as well, though, to be accessed from your desktop, laptop at expertvoice.com. So experts can access it on their phone or on their computers. I'm not sure how specific you'll be about this initial question, and I'll add some color here, but the question is around how long it took to recoup your initial investment and what that investment was.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable talking about the total investment because the program's so tailored. I have a feeling that it kind of depends on what your needs are, how many lessons you want to have, and how much help you need developing things. So I would let the ExpertVoice team speak to that. But as far as recouping our investment, we've recouped it. We're done. We're good. Our ROI is great. We're going to continue forward. And again, we're really glad, that we were set up when we did. I think obviously COVID had impact on that. I don't know. I can't sit here today and tell you what the numbers would be outside of COVID because no one can, but, and that might have had an impact on the heavy adoption of it. But ExpertVoice, you guys might have some info on that too, as far as like our trend line compared to other brands you've launched, but we're very happy with our investment.
Yeah, I think that question is, there's not a clear black and white answer to it because it depends on how the brand looks at it, right? You can measure return in so many ways. You can look at it as, what does it cost you to send a rep to store to engage people, and how many people do they engage, and how many people are you engaging on ExpertVoice, and how does that scale? If you can measure and track what your sell-through is happening at stores and looking at experts that have engaged there, and is that outperforming stores where they're not engaging? There's brands that look at it strictly as a sales channel, which Open Farm isn't even leveraging it that way as a way to generate sales directly on their own site. So I think it depends on what your metrics are and how you're trying to monitor it. For us, it's us thinking about how do you have more people speaking on your behalf? What would it have cost you to do that in other channels? And what are you spending with ExpertVoice?
Yep.
What type of marketing support did you have to set this up? Meaning, did you have to create a bunch of content, or did ExpertVoice?
Great question. We do have an internal marketing team, and it did have a lot of assets ready to go. We did work with ExpertVoice to either tweak or come up with some of the things that we use. So it was a bit of both, to be honest. ExpertVoice has the resources to help you. If you don't, we probably were slightly lucky in the sense that we did have that internal resource on our team and were able to provide a lot of the upfront, but definitely with some tweaking from ExpertVoice.
Yeah, and the color I'd add there is that our in-house studios team, they can do everything from custom video and motion graphics to splicing and editing video that you have, to a full content team and instructional designers and graphic designers that can build out the lessons, or we can simply take your content and put it up there, as well as some new self-service features that are now available too. All right. Just kidding. One more. What is the repeat engagement from store employees?
I'll speak to our experience, and then ExpertVoice probably has some statistics on this. It really, from our perspective, depends how you set it up. So we are constantly using new lessons to kind of try to engage the experts in a more meaningful way and more often. So we actually have a very high rate of, it's not even repeat because they're seeing a new lesson. So every time they go in, if they choose to. So I would say that's part of our analysis of our ROI is we're getting to talk to experts over and over again because they're very engaged with the brand. Becky, I don't know from your perspective, again, if that's normal, not normal, but we're pretty happy with the repeat usage.
Yeah, I say Amy cut out for just a second on me, so I don't know if that's me or her. So Inga will jump in if you can't hear me. But the repeat engagement is totally dependent on how you structure your program. We do see the best engagement from brands who are constantly putting out new things for experts to engage with. So if you set your program up and leave it for a year, and if you aren't actively letting people know that you're on the platform, you won't see as much repeat engagement as a brand that's constantly refreshing their content and providing new opportunities for experts.
And Becky, you're coming across fine, but I do think we lost Amy.
Perfect. When I was solicitor years ago, the salesperson can provide a demo. Lonnie, we can fix that for you, I promise. And I think that looks like we've come to the end. Everyone, thank you for hanging with us. Thank you for joining us today. Apologies for the drop in and drop out of the wonderful world of the internet. You'll be seeing a follow-up that'll be available both on the page where you registered, probably by tomorrow morning, and or you'll be receiving an email, as well as you can always follow up with an account executive here at ExpertVoice. So thanks for all the good questions. Amy, thank you for your time and your passion and enthusiasm. Inga, thanks for your help and support. And everybody, have a good Thursday.